Hello, everybody. Welcome to another amazing Adobe Live here on this Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to you all. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, that's just fine. But you know what? You won't be able to get involved in the chat. And that's where it's all happening. So come along and join us at behance.net/Adobe Live, where you can chat with myself, the community, and most importantly, our fabulous guest, who is my old buddy, Russell Viers. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I need to ask a quick favor, though. If we could retract something you said early on. You said amazing, and I really think we should lower the expectations a little bit.
Yeah, my pretty good. But how far down do you want to go? Do you want to go pretty good? You know,
that's
above average?
I think pretty good's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, it'll be above average. I've seen average. Yeah, we'll be above that.
Okay-ish.
Maybe not far, but yeah. Ish. Good to
we'll
see
get
you, Tony.
there. We'll get there. Yeah, no, mate, it is always good to see you. Let's just say, give a shout out quickly to some of our community first. So, all I'm seeing here is I'm seeing Kirsty. Hi, Kirsty. I'm seeing Andreas. Guten Tag. And also guten Tag to Sean and to Julia. Hi, Julia. Stuart is here.
Is she watching?
Hi, Julia. She is watching. Yeah. Yeah, she's watching. She's in the chat saying hello to everybody. Jackie's here. Right, oh, man, so many people. Yes, Sandrine is here. So we've got loads. Welcome, one and all. Great to see you. Don't forget, this is the place where you need to pop your questions and whatever. And Oliver, yes, that is a laser warning on the door behind me. There's laser radiation behind that door. So there we go. Anyway, moving on. Russell, what have you got in store for us today?
I've got about 5 minutes of presentation that I am either going to present really slowly or just keep repeating over and over again for the 90 minutes. I haven't decided which I'm going to do yet. That's not true. I actually have a lot because, and so the concept for the show is there are a lot of us, you and I, Tony included, who there was a day when Photoshop was all we had, and we relied on it to do all of our work for us when we came to photos. We downloaded, we worked on the computer in Photoshop, or we scanned. Remember scanning? You know, we brought that stuff in and we worked in Photoshop. And we see this Adobe world expanding so far beyond that now. You know, and so I wanted to do a class. I say class, that's kind of lofty. I wanted to just share a few thoughts on the different tools and how we can use them together, and how some of them maybe fall short of our expectations if we're trying to do this, but are great if we're trying to do that. And so if it's okay, I'll just show a few things and we'll just see where this class goes. Is that
I love it when it's all organic like that. Let's do that. Let's do exactly that. So take it away, my friend.
All right. Well, see ya. I'll see you later. Tim, can you cut him off? So before I start, I want a disclaimer though. Can I give a disclaimer?
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want people like in the chats typing angrily at me because I didn't meet their expectations. What I don't want this to be a Lightroom class. I don't want it to be a bridge class. I don't want it to be a Photoshop class. I want it to be more the idea of how all these things work together. So we're not going to go super deep in any of those programs. Can I be forgiven for that?
Yeah, of course.
Can I be?
Yeah, absolutely you can. Yeah.
So I'll tell you just shortly about my personal journey with these and why this class kind of bubbled up in my head. So I used to hate Lightroom. Now I hate it less. Okay. I actually at times like it. There's times I actually like Lightroom. And I was a bridge camera raw filter guy. And I'm going to explain that later in the presentation and why that's the way I work and why I think that's the better workflow for a lot of people. Not everybody, obviously, but for a lot of people. Where I was pulled into this being forced in a way to go across all these applications was, have you seen these? Have you seen these phones now that have cameras built into them, Tony?
Wow, that's crazy, man. No, I haven't.
No, so it's not, you don't just talk on it. You can do other things. I'd bring mine over, but
my cable doesn't reach this far.
Yeah, you're old school.
I know.
So, and now, have you seen these moment lenses? Have you seen these?
Crazy. No.
I don't want this to turn into a commercial for a moment, but they're these lenses that, can you see this? Okay. They're just rather solid, beautiful glass. And so I have two phones. I have my US phone. So when people from the US want to call me, there's this, and it's got a moment case on it. And this phone, the 11, I can do regular focal point or telephoto. Okay, so that's what this one. When I moved over here to Germany, I bought this iPhone 12 mini, which does regular or wide angle, okay. So now I feel like at times, if I want to shoot iPhones, I got to carry them both around, but the lenses work on both. Okay. So I've got a telephoto and a wide angle that I put on there and I shoot. So I shoot a lot with my iPhone because it's easy. You've got it in your pocket, you take some pictures and it's easy. And when Lightroom Mobile came out, it was kind of a game changer. It's kind of a game changer. Have you used Lightroom Mobile, Tony?
I have. Okay. I have. I find it to be very enjoyable.
I'm going to share my iPhone with you. There. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, getting it.
Okay. So, I've got all these pictures on here that, I take. These pictures, oddly enough, these are fun. Have you heard of I'm sure you have. Everybody's heard of it. The John Cage composition that's playing in Halberstadt. Have you heard about this? That's going to take 639 years to play. Yeah, it's playing in this cathedral. No, I'm serious. It's playing in this cathedral right now. So I went over there and took some pictures.
Yeah.
So these are handy. We take these pictures with them. And what's nice about these is we can do the adjustment right here on the camera. And you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal about that? A lot of phones offer that capability, and they do. So I'm just going to go here to this picture, for example, and I'm going to just do some basic adjustments. So I'm going to click down here in the bottom right corner to light. Maybe I'll lighten the exposure a little bit. Maybe I'll click on color and I will make it black and white. Let's just do that. Let's go back to light. I'm looking at that histogram. I want to go ahead and pull the exposure all the way up a little bit more, bump up the contrast. And I'm looking at that window back there. And I don't think that even if I bring out the shadows, I'm going to get what I want out of that. So I'm going to go all the way to the left to this selective little button there and click on that plus. And I'm going to go to the paintbrush and I'm just going to paint this window really sloppily. And then when I click on light in the bottom left corner, when I make an adjustment here, notice I'm only adjusting that selective area on my phone. So let's bump up the contrast a little bit more there. Let's go ahead and let those blacks get all the way down, but pull those shadows out a little bit more. So you can see as a photo editing tool in and of itself, that's worthwhile. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And local adjustments are cool.
Yeah, and I can click the little check mark there, and there's the share button in the top right corner. And if I click on that, you can see that I can, share the link with people, or I can export it to my camera roll. There's all sorts of options that I have here for the sharing. But this is what's exciting about this is right now, Tony, let me just stop sharing that for just a second. And those pictures right there, let's say I took your picture. Let's just do this. Let me just go here right now. And let's just take the camera and I'm just going to take your picture, Tony. Okay. I just took your picture on this phone. All right.
Fab.
Now,
yes,
because it's in the cloud, because it's Lightroom Mobile, this has already synced with Lightroom on this. And it's already synced with Lightroom on my iPad. Okay. I'm just going to look here and there's your picture coming in right there. So let me share my screen with, the iPad.
Yep.
Let me tell it to screen mirror. Can we see it now?
Yep, it's coming up now.
Okay.
Yep.
There you are. There you are, Tony.
Wow.
Okay. Now, to really enjoy this though, watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to, on my iPhone, I'm going to go to the library here. Let's go to all photos. Let's go to that incredible picture of you. And if you want copies of this photo, Tony, I can arrange that.
Okay, that would be cool. I think this could well be one of my new profile pics. Definitely.
It's the happier you, the happier, calmer Tony. So I'm on my phone right now, and just watch on my iPad, watch what's going to happen here as let's just say, crop this down a bit. Let's get you look more like a prison photo there. That's nice. And let's go to, let's just do color, and let's just take you to black and white. Let's go to exposure. Let's bump up the contrast. Okay. We'll just play with this for a second. And when I'm done with that, it's important to note that all of these adjustments that I'm making on my iPhone or iPad, doesn't matter. And it's going to take it a second to sync here. We're probably using up a lot of bandwidth here, but all of these adjustments are non-destructive, Tony. Okay. Yeah. So right now, that photo of you is, there we go. You popped up on my iPad. Okay. So now the photos you saw me make on my iPhone are now on my other iPhone. They're on the iPad and they're on my laptop. And if I don't like this, if I'm looking at this on my iPad, I'm like, no, I think we need to go back to color on this. Let's make that color, and let's bring up the vibrance a little bit. I can undo everything I've done because these adjustments are non-destructive. And I think that's a whole new way of thinking in the iPhone app world, is to be able to make these adjustments and have it already on your computer. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And if let's go ahead and share my desktop, and let's look. And
there's one other place, that you can access them too. Did you know? So you can actually access Lightroom in the browser. So if you needed
what's
to,
a browser?
A location.
What's a browser? Are you talking about like Netscape? Like Netscape?
Yeah, Netscape. Exactly, Netscape. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Internet Explorer. Other things from the distant past.
Can you access it with AOL.com? Can you get in there with that?
Oh man, you are too. Yeah, probably. CompuServe.
So all of these adjustments are non-destructive until you make a decision. So let's just go back here, find a picture here. These are exciting. Here, this one right here. Okay, this picture right here, nothing's permanent until I make a choice here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that little share button that we're all used to using. And these are my choices. I can export as a JPEG, small, large. I can export it as the original file and include the settings. And I'm going to explain that more in just a bit. I could send a link to share with people or invite people to share. And I want to be clear about this, because when I first saw that share button, I was really excited that I'd be able to share that with somebody and they'd be able to also make adjustments so we could work collaboratively. And that's not the case, Tony. Sorry.
No.
Bad news. It's
disappointing.
They can view it and they can also download it if you give permission, and they can work on their own version offline. But in terms of you working collaboratively, like, hey, Tony, I know you've got a better monitor than me. Can you tweak this photo for me real quick? That's not in this environment. We don't have that capability. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a quick glimpse into how I was pulled into this world. Is that I like to use my iPhone. I like to shoot with it. And so I kind of, using Lightroom Mobile, I was forced to get into Lightroom on the computer and the other devices. And it's nice because the technology is so similar in all of them. Once you learn one, it's not hard to learn the others. So that's nice. Yeah. Are there any questions about Lightroom Mobile at this point, Tony?
No, I said you've started a whole other fire here. I saw with people talking about things like a Lightroom plugin for MySpace, the Opera browser, and do you need a 56K modem to access Lightroom?
Yeah. So those are all great questions.
They are good questions.
I kind of wish that we could just spend the next hour just reading other people's jokes, because ours are so lame, Tony. Ours are so bad that it would be nice. It'd be nice to hear what other people have to say. Yeah. All right. So
it's a great way. Go on. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because essentially what it's like working with negatives back in the old day. You know, you just create a print or an interpretation from that negative, and then you just carry it. You can either save that interpretation and refer to it whenever you want, or just make new interpretations.
Well, if you go back to what kind of got this discussion started, if you go back to the old Photoshop days, when that's all we did was work in Photoshop, you know, you get to that point where you have to start making some decisions. Do I save this, or do I do a save as? You know, and then all of a sudden you've got 5 iterations of it, and you know the naming convention. Everybody in the world uses the same one, you know, file 2, file 3, file 3 new, file 4 newer. Final, I really mean it this time.
Yeah, fine.
Gosh, you know, .tif, right? And when you start talking about, and this is beyond the scope of today's class by any means, but when you start talking about RGB to CMYK conversion, if you're doing color printing, now all of a sudden, if part of our workflow is to convert to CMYK and then save that file out, if anything changes with the printer, with paper, with, you know, all those things that can impact that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning and start again. If we're not using an RGB workflow, if we're not using a workflow where the printer is converted to CMYK at the rip, or if we're not converted to CMYK, say in the PDF out of InDesign. So if we are forcing those images to become CMYK at some point, and if we don't save that, as you called it, that digital negative, so to speak, if we don't save that, well, we could be in big trouble down the road when somebody says, hey, I want to use that image, but I want to whatever. We don't have that anymore. So yes, this is it's not a new thought, but it's a new way of working, and that we basically are going to keep our originals over here, and then we're going to save out whatever assets we want to use for the project. On that note, Tony, there's a warning. There's a warning. Let me go back to sharing my screen.
Yep.
All of these photos. So if I go to grid view here and scroll through, okay, all of these, and I mean, I take lots of photos. Okay. I take lots.
Yes.
If I scrolled all the way back to the beginning, I still have some of my old Kooky's road trip photos in there, Tony. Okay.
Wow.
I have years of photos in here, and those are taking up memory. Okay.
Yeah.
So think about this. Those photos, they're in the cloud. I get that, but they're also, you know, referenced on the iPad and on my computer. And at some point you probably ought to make some decisions. And that is, do I need this many photos of this thing right here? You know, or is that the one that I'm going to go with? And I can throw the others away. You know, what are we going to do about managing those? Because you know, using the metaphor you did with it's like negatives, we don't want to just keep rooms and rooms of negatives that we're never going to use. So at some point we may need to make some choices here on what we're going to do with these. And also, you know, we only have so much cloud storage. So if we go to mine right now, I think it warned me that so I'm about halfway through my plan. So do I need to upgrade to keep more and more of these photos in Lightroom? Do I want to clean this out to make more room? You know, how much am I using that? Those are all factors you have to think about if you're going to work in this world.
Yeah.
Right? You definitely have to think about that. So here's a folder. Here's an album that I've created here. And the albums, they're kind of deceiving. They're simply just a reference to the photos. You can stick stuff in the albums, but like if I went to delete this album, it's only going to delete the album, not the photos. So it's kind of a 2-step deal to clean this up. So it does take a little bit of time to go through that. Okay, so what's the workflow here, Tony? So the workflow is we shoot and we download, whether that's it's captured here and synced, or whether we're taking our digital camera. And, it's definitely everything I've been talking about now is capturing on the camera, but it's the same if you take your digital camera out and you pull the card out and maybe you've got a card reader that sticks into the bottom of your iPad, and you want to do it that way. Those are all viable alternatives. So we capture, we now have it, we do our editing, we save out what we need for whatever project we're working on, and then we need to think about our storage for those, okay?
Yeah.
Once we start wrapping our head around that workflow, then it starts changing a few things. Then we'll get more into this when we get into the Bridge Camera Raw workflow segment, but do you shoot camera raw, Tony?
I do.
Do you? Do you really shoot camera raw, or do you just say you do to sound important, but you really
No. I really do.
Scenes?
I really do.
Okay. Just testing.
Really.
I'm just testing. But there was a day when you first started embracing camera raw where you felt like, or at least I did, I felt like, oh, there's all this extra work. I've got to process it before it can go into InDesign. I've got to process it before I can go do something with it, because you can't place the raw file in InDesign.
Yeah.
Once you start using this workflow on everything, you don't even feel it. It's just the way you work. You download your raw files, you process them in camera raw, you save them out to be used in InDesign or whatever social media you want or whatever. And so it stops being a hurdle to using camera raw if you get used to this workflow, and it just becomes the way you work.
That's the thing. It's just a lot of sliders, though, isn't it, for people to look at initially? That's the thing, I think, because it's like having all of Photoshop laid bare in front of you in one go.
Well, it's actually so easy, because like if I take this picture that's a little dark and I click on, can you see my screen, Tony?
Yes, sir. I certainly can.
This picture's really dark, and so whereas this setup, in Photoshop, is how many drop-down menus do we have to go to? Image adjust curves, maybe brightness contrast. Maybe we're going to go to sharpening. Maybe we're going to go to color balance. So, it's several places that we have to go. And in this case, they're all right here. I can lighten the exposure, bump up the contrast, bring out the shadows a little bit, bring the blacks down a little bit more. If I feel like there's a color shift I want to make, I can just simply slide temperature here. Have you ever used color balance in Photoshop, Tony?
Yeah, we all have, haven't we? It's the opposite way around to RAW, I think, on the controls. If LAB.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's so hard. Yeah, I think I'd rather staple my eyelids shut than use color balance in Photoshop. And when you're here in Lightroom, it's simply sliding the temperature control. It's that simple. So all of these adjustments are right here. And so what we have to do, if we're going to switch from Photoshop to any one of these environments, whether it's Lightroom or the camera raw with Bridge, we have to stop thinking about a linear workflow. And that's what Photoshop is. What's the first thing you do? Maybe I crop. Okay, what's the next thing you do? Well, I do this. What's the next thing you do? Well, I do this. What's the next thing you do? Well, I do sharpen. Okay. What if you don't like your crop? Well, then I undo, go back, recrop it, and then try to remember all the things I did to get that image the way I wanted it to look.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar, Tony?
That's very typical, yes.
Yeah. So now I can come in here and I can just change this to a 1:1 crop for, let's say, Instagram, and I can, adjust it there, but I don't own that crop. I can always come back and I can take it back to the way it was shot or something else. So we have all this capability of undoing and changing everything, even crops and local adjustments.
Yeah.
So,
and those versions, of course, that we have down at the bottom there as well, which is very useful.
To make a second version of it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. If and then also don't forget that at any point, if you want to, I can edit this in Photoshop. So just for this demonstration, I'm going to edit this in Photoshop. It's going to launch it here. Boom, boom, boom. and we can edit this in Photoshop. Before I get there, so that I don't forget to tell you this, one thing that you have to know about this workflow is that it will open it in Photoshop. We're going to make an adjustment. And even if we save it, if we go back to Lightroom, we won't see the changes. We have to save and close. Okay, so I'm just going to go to Image, Adjust, Black and White, and let's just pretend that that's a perfect shot, and we love it. Okay, let's just do that. Hit OK. I'm going to save this and close out of it. Okay, because this adjustment that we made in Photoshop is not non-destructive. Or do I say it's destructive? Which do I say, Tony? It's not non-destructive?
I think it's destructive.
It's destructive.
It's destructive.
All right. And if I come in here and I look, there's the original. Here's the one that I adjusted in Photoshop. And you'll notice that I can't go into color, for example, and take it back to the original. I've made some permanent choices once I go into Photoshop and make those changes and save them and come back. So just be careful. Don't ruin those photos. But the good news is it gave you 2 versions. It gave you 2. So you've got the original one to always go back to if you want to.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the other thing I wanted to note, Tony, that if you're using your iPhone here or whatever device, it doesn't have to be an iDevice, and you shoot with just the camera, just the one that comes with it, or maybe you use one of the other camera tools out there, but just the basic Mac camera that's on there, those will load into Lightroom automatically. Okay, we can do that. I'm going to stop this share. And I'm going to go back to my camera for just a second to show you something that I love. And I use this all the time. Okay, so if I go back to just the normal like main screen there, can you see in the bottom right corner, there are 2 blue buttons? Can you see those?
Oh, yes.
No, right here, Tony. Can you see them? They're blue.
Yeah, definitely,
Right
100%.
Can you see those? No, hold on. Let me
just about.
See them. I'm
I
not
can
sure
make them out. There's not enough contrast.
Can you see those, Tony? Can you see those?
Yes, sir, I can. Bring in a photo.
What is that? And what is that? An
looks
icon?
like a camera.
I think.
Looks like a camera.
Looks like a camera.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Looks like a camera. And so what's neat about it is when I push on that, you can see we have some really neat. Here's my hand. You like that picture? Here's my keyboard. But we have some really neat controls in the file format that we shoot. Notice that I can actually shoot camera raw on this, or I can switch it to shoot JPEGs. Okay. So I'm a big fan of camera raw. If we have any viewers who haven't shot camera raw yet, can we do a raise of hands maybe, Tony? If you haven't shot camera raw yet, I can't tell you enough that, are there any hands going up?
It would appear not. We can't do a show of hands, unfortunately, in the chat just here. But nobody's. Apart from Tim. Well, Tim's found a way to do a show of hands. So, Tim, yes.
So what we've got is we've got this environment of camera raw that gives us more information than a JPEG does, and it doesn't make these final decisions that a JPEG does. A JPEG has to decide what's the white point, what's the black point, what's the color balance. It has to decide all those things when it writes. So we lose a lot of flexibility when we open these files and try to make adjustments. We don't have that with camera raw. And the other thing that JPEGs do, and I'm sure you know this one, it's a lossy compression system, and we lose quality, period.
Yeah.
Period.
And it's gone forever. That's it.
On its best day.
Yeah.
Period. And so, yeah, I've taken some pictures a lot with that camera raw, and I'm amazed at how clear the hair follicles are. And also, like look at this picture behind me. Can you see the picture? Not very well, maybe,
yeah.
But it's an iPhone photo that's blown up to 120 centimeters by 100 centimeters. The quality that you get from camera raw and the ability to size it beyond, interpolating those pixels, it's really quite amazing. You won't get quite the same results if you're shooting JPEGs. We just have to think about that. So I'm a big fan of use Lightroom to capture the camera in Lightroom Mobile, or at your camera, shoot camera raw if you can. The workflow, here's the thing that I want you to remember. The workflow doesn't change. If you're shooting negatives or digital negatives or camera raw or JPEGs, we're going to go through these same steps.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think on most iPhones these days, and certainly on some of the Android devices, that the baseline for the cameras is around 4K. So you've got plenty of resolution to play with. Therefore, pretty much everything you would need.
That's a bold statement though, because I shot some photos the year ago last at my son's bobsledding match. What do you call it? Race? I guess race.
Race, yeah.
The Europe
Trial.
Cup in Innsbruck. And I got an email from the Liechtenstein bobsled team, and they were asking, did you get any pictures of us? And I said, yeah. And they said, well, we need them. We would like to use them on the side of our truck for the transport.
Promotion.
We want to show that we're the Liechtenstein bobsled team. Can we have the photos? And I'm like, yeah, what size do you need them? Well, so picture a real world scenario. You've got a camera that shoots whatever your lens is. Okay. So let's say I've got 200 lens, 300 lens, whatever it is. I can still, because of the restrictions of the race, I can still only get so close to the start. I can only get so close to that curve. I can only get so close to the action. So it's quite possible that when you're shooting, you're already cropping out 50% of the pixels are gone just to get the picture you want. And then they want that to be the size of a truck. So, every one of us who uses this software has different needs. And who'd have thought I'd get a call from the Liechtenstein bobsled team saying, I need this massive photo. Believe me, that wasn't in my mind when I was shooting them. I was just having fun. I'm taking pictures and now it's on the side of a truck. So, I always like to always make the absolute best picture possible, because you never know what you're going to want to do with it, down the road. But the digital negative,
obviously the rules change if you're using a crop from a picture, but otherwise you've got plenty of resolution there to play with.
Well, it definitely makes you stop and think about, do I want an 11 where I've got regular and telephoto, or do I want a 12 mini where I've got regular and wide angle? I don't like this. I don't use the wide angle. I'm always zooming in on something from a distance. And so it also makes you start to think about, when you're buying your phone, which lenses are going to give me what I want, because we want to do optical zoom, not digital zoom. Okay, we're going to switch gears if that's okay, Tony.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Can I share my screen again?
Yeah.
All right. So let's say that I've got some pictures here that I want to export. I want to use them elsewhere. So I'm just going to grab these that I've adjusted here. Just grab a few of these. By the way, if you ever get up to this neighborhood, Tony, I'll take you down and we can listen to the song playing here. The chord.
The 639 year one.
Yeah, last year before I moved to Germany, the chord changed for the first time in 7 years. And I missed it because I moved over after it changed. But it's going to change again February 5th of next year. So I'm excited. You and I are excited to go over and listen to that big event. If we miss it, it's 2 more years before the chord changes again. So
I'll definitely come over. But more than that, I want to go to the Puppet Museum. And there's a Puppet Museum.
Oh, that's right here in town, the Puppet Museum.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm back here I've got some images selected, and I'm back here to this export in the top right corner. And so I've got some setting choices, but the one I want to zoom in on here is original plus settings, okay? And I don't want to get too geeky because I can't. I can only speak at a high level on this that I want to share with you. Maybe, Tony, you can expand on it because I know you like getting under the hood and talking about that stuff. But basically what allows this non-destructive behavior of these photos as we adjust is that the photo itself never really gets touched. It writes a little XMP file that sits next to it, and Lightroom, Photoshop, and Bridge all recognize that, and they'll display the photo as if it's been adjusted, but it hasn't been. It's simply relying on that little piece of code that tells it what you want it to look like. Is that a good explanation, Tony?
Yes, good explanation. Yeah.
Okay. So when it says original plus the settings, that's what it's saying is we're going to export the original photo and that XMP file that makes it look that way. So I'm going to click original plus settings, and I'll just stick these on my desktop, and I'll call this Adobe Live with the Tonester.
Do you know, I've just sort of just quickly, mate, I've just thought of another benefit to this particular workflow, right? Is that unlike when you were comparing Photoshop and Lightroom earlier, when you do something in a Photoshop file and you save that file or you do a save as on that file, all of that data has to be written, right? So everything from pixel right in the top left-hand corner all the way down and across the image. Whereas when you're working in Lightroom, all of the settings you're doing, you're effectively only changing a text file. Yeah. So all of those adjustments
and it's tiny
are
it's
text
tiny.
Properties and values. Yeah. So it's teeny weeny, which is how comes it can work so fast, because it is just literally sending a bunch of text. And I don't think that's obvious to users all the time. So, you know, it's a good advocate for the format.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't even think about it, but you're totally right. I can go out with my digital camera and I can download 1,000 shots I took to Dropbox and watch my network shut down for 24 hours as it's writing those to Dropbox.
Yeah.
But the next day, as I'm adjusting those, you're right. It's just blip, 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 blip as it's sending those files. Let's take a look at those files now, Tony, and we can see what the file size is. Okay. I'm going to switch to Finder on here. I thought I was. Let's stop that share. I don't know why.
Okay.
It's not letting me see Finder. Hold on a second. Let's try this again. Interesting, Tony. I can't get my Finder. It's locked up. My Finder is not happy.
No.
I've got you can't see this, and you've probably never seen this. I've got this multicolored ball of some sort that is spinning on my Finder. Let's see if I.
That sounds like alien tech to me.
I relaunch that real quick.
Sounds like witchcraft stuff. What spinning ball is this you speak
Yeah,
of?
I hope I don't lose you. I hope I don't lose you by restarting Finder. Okay, I think I've got Finder again. Okay, good. We're back, Tony. Survived that. Let me, that was a squeaker. Hold on a second. Let me share my screen. And we're up here. Let's go to my desktop. Can you see the spinning beach ball?
No, just seeing your regular cursor at the moment.
Let's go to date modified. Okay. Adobe Live with the Tonester. Okay. And it's still writing those files, and you can see the size of them. They're 20 megabyte files coming from my iPhone, and it's still writing those files. Yeah. So it hasn't written the XML files yet, but let's just switch gears and I'll show you another folder. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a bridge, pardon the pun. We're going to build a bridge between Lightroom Mobile, and Adobe Bridge. Okay.
Yes.
And I'll talk about why I like that technology better. So here we go, Tony. Can you see it? Here's a great example. Let me move the file size over.
You shoot on a Canon
as I zoom in. Okay. I do it. I generally shoot with my eyes closed. It shoots 12 frames a second. So I just aim it in the general direction down and close my eyes and hope for the best. It's just how I shoot. It's my style. Yeah, I'm shooting. Here's the camera raw file, 25 megabytes. But look at the XMP file is simply 5K. It's tiny, 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 tiny. Yeah. Yeah. So, back to your point and it's really valid. And that is, you might have an initial time restraint on your network as you've worked on these photos, as you downloaded these photos. But then as you work, you're not going to feel it. If you're using a Dropbox workflow, for example, you're not going to wait a week for your collaborators to see the adjustments you've made, because it's a 5K file it's sending to the other person.
Absolutely.
So this folder right here, Tony, of pictures is actually this photo, this folder of photos right here. I would like to think that I can get back to that. See, my Finder is, I think the problem is that the Finder's busy writing these photos and it's not happy. I'm just going to leave it alone if that's okay. Can you just trust me when I say that I've taken those photos from Lightroom, exported the original with the settings, and if I opened them in Bridge, I would see the adjustments that were made on my phone, on my iPad, and on my computer? Can you just trust me that that would...
Man, I would totally trust you on that, and I would urge everybody else to do exactly the same.
Okay. All right. So I'm in, here's a folder of 1,000 photos. All right. And so we're in Bridge, and we're going to use the Bridge camera flow. And I'll just tell you very clearly why I like this better.
Yeah.
I tend to work with a lot of publishing companies, magazines, newspapers, and we need to be able to work collaboratively to reach the finish line faster. Okay. So let's close down to those. Okay. And so Lightroom doesn't allow that. If you're just a person working alone and your computer, you do your own thing and Lightroom's working for you, great. But in a collaborative workflow, there's a lot of things we can all do together on these that you can't do with Lightroom. Okay. Let me give you a simple example of one of the things we can do. A little side note here, Tony, you know this, Bridge is free. Did you know that? It's free.
Free. And it's
Are
wonderful.
You stunned?
Stunned. Yeah, this is me being speechless.
So anybody on the planet, can go download Bridge and do what I'm going to show you next up to a point. Okay, for example, anyone using Bridge could access a folder of photos. And actually, let me back up one step, Tony, and talk about the distinction between the way files are handled in Lightroom versus Bridge. In Lightroom, you're actually importing them into Lightroom. There's like a database, and it's in your Lightroom. And the only way to get to them is by launching Lightroom and working on those images. Is that a safe explanation, Tony?
I think so. Yes. Yeah.
Bridge, on the other hand, is like Finder or Windows Explorer. And if you look in the top left corner here, we have favorites and folders, and I can navigate to a folder. It didn't like those 1,000 photos that I was using there. Let's go back here.
That's just building a cache, isn't it? And it depends on how big your cache is at the moment currently. So. Yeah,
I should have.
But that's all good.
Yeah, it's just going to be a little slow. So,
yeah, it's just rendering thumbnails.
Yeah. The bottom line is, though, that I can navigate to any folder. That can be on my computer, that can be on the server, that can be on an external hard drive. Nothing contains these. These are just there. So in a publishing workflow, as an example, I could be the photographer for the sports, and I go out and I photograph the bobsled. I come in and I download them following file naming procedures and where they need to go. And anyone else in that operation who has access to those can use Bridge, navigate to those. I'm going to actually force quit Bridge for a second here, Tony, because I want to show this, and it's just taking forever to render those
thumbnails,
sled photos. Yeah. So let's go.
Are you aware? I've got a question for you, Russell, because here's the thing about Bridge. Because I love Bridge. Many people here in the chat love Bridge as well. Are you aware of the Super Res feature in Bridge?
It's not in Bridge. It's in the Camera Raw, and I'm going to get to that.
In Camera Raw, but in Bridge, yeah.
Yeah. You have to get to it through Bridge, and it's one of those things. If you go back to where we started, and I said, some of these tools don't go all the way, and some do. You almost have to use all of them in some capacity. Let's get to that in just a second then. So here's Bridge. Here's a typical workflow for, say, again, a publishing company. I'm a newspaper. I download these. Maybe I'm the photographer, but I'm back out on assignment. These are on the server. Someone else using Bridge, even if they don't own the Creative Cloud, they've just got Bridge, can go to full screen mode here and using the arrow keys can flip through and they can rate these. They can even put in the metadata. And I wish I had time to demonstrate it, but if you guys are using InDesign, I can take this metadata and pull it into the InDesign document automatically with the captions feature. And so what Bridge allows us to do is have someone besides the photographer writing those captions, maybe choosing the pictures, giving them 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. The photographer could always come back and go down to the 5-star pictures and look and say, yeah, I agree with you. I like those. Yeah, we're going to use that one. That's the one I want to use, versus going through all 1,000 photos. Now, some photographers watching this right now are going to be, no way, I choose the photo. And that's cool. I'm just saying that Bridge allows you to see them, rate them, add metadata. There's all sorts of things you can do within Bridge, the free version. Okay. What you can't do is what I'm going to show you next. Okay. I want to zoom in for just a second, Tony, to show you that these are JPEGs. Okay. I know I talk a lot about Camera Raw, but I think it's important to note that the Bridge Camera Raw workflow has worked with JPEGs, TIFFs, and RAW since CS3. Do you want to check that on my version? I'm pretty confident that CS3 was the first.
No, I'm fairly confident that's pretty much the case. Yeah.
So
CS2 was Camera Raw itself, wasn't it? And CS3 extended the format to TIFF and JPEG. So
the reality of this is, Tony, that it's time to rename the Camera Raw filter. I'm suggesting the really awesome image adjustment tool, or something pithy like that is what I'm suggesting. So I'm going to select all of these images. And this is one of the differences, the big differences between working in Camera Raw and Lightroom that I want to show you. Before I do it, I want to just give you the background that in Lightroom, if I want to adjust a bunch of photos, so all of these, let's say that I select these 5 right here, and I want to adjust them. Notice if I go to the adjustment panel, okay, I've got them all selected. And if I do something like lighten the exposure, notice that it only did it to the first one. It doesn't do it to all of them. Okay, so I can do my adjustments. Then I have to copy which settings, or copy the settings, or choose which ones to copy. And then I select the other ones and I paste. That's a workflow.
Absolutely.
I don't like it, but it is a workflow. It is a workflow. For me, I tend to work more like this. I've got this whittled down to the photographs that I want to use. I'm going to flush out the develop settings. Let me tell you what I'm doing right now. Do you remember a few hours ago, Tony, when I was talking about the little XMP file that displays it the way you
sidecar,
for your adjustment? Yeah. I can right click. I've got all these selected. I'm simply right clicking and I can go to develop settings and I can clear those settings out and it just deletes that XMP file and we go back to the original photo. These are now the original photo. We're starting again. Okay. This is great if you have coworkers adjusting your photos who drink a lot and work late. And you come in the next morning and you see their work and you're like, no, let's just do that again. Select all, throw it away and start again. But notice that it didn't throw the metadata away. I still got the stars. I still got the metadata in the IPTC core. All it did was throw that little XMP file away. Okay. So now we're going to start again. With all of them selected, I'm going to go to File, Open in Camera Raw, or Command R. All right. Now, something you said earlier that we played with a little bit, I just want to reiterate that it's here, is that where in Photoshop, we might have to go to 5 or 10 places to find all of these and then hit OK we have to think chronologically or linearly. Here we have everything in one place that can at any point be undone, adjusted, fixed, changed. Okay, so spend some time looking what's under here. If you guys have an older version, if you watching are in, let's say, still using CS6, you'll find that this interface has changed dramatically, but its functionality hasn't. It's still very much the same as it's been for many versions. Okay, Tony, you ready to do some power adjusting? Some power adjusting.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So
do you want your highlight clipping on, by the way? Because you've got your highlight clipping on. You tap O on your keyboard or click that.
I had that. Thank you for catching that. I actually had that on for another thing I was doing. So good. Okay. So I'm not saying you can always do this, but I know some of you watching have had times where you can do this. So watch what I'm going to do. If I hit, here's a quiz, Tony. Are you ready for a quiz?
I am ready. I'm going to
hit Command A. What does that mean?
Select all.
You're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm going to hit Option S, which is synchronize. Option S. Now, actually, let me cancel that for a second. I'll come back to that. I'm just going to hit Command A, and now watch as I go in here, and I've got this first photo selected. Can you see that? That's what I'm looking at. That first photo. But I'm going to hit Command A. Watch. Look at the thumbnails to the left as I choose black and white.
All happening.
We're doing this. We're making commitments here. I'm going to lighten the exposure. Maybe I think that the grass and the red is too close together. I'm going to go to that black and white mixer and maybe lighten the greens a little bit. Maybe lighten the reds just a little bit, get a more contrast in the stripes there. Okay. Let's go back up. Maybe a little bit more contrast in that. Let's pull out the shadows just a little bit, but let's bring the blacks down to at least we have some black pixels in that. Okay. Notice that we've done that for all of these photos. Pretty cool. Now, there are going to be times where that won't work, where maybe after you do it, you want to click on the top one and then do your left arrow and just scroll down and make sure, like that one, for example, let me bring the highlights down a little bit more to bring that guy's shirt back in. Let me lighten the shadows, maybe just a little bit more there. Okay. So you might want to do a quick check and scrolling through, but it's still quicker, right? Don't you agree? It's still quicker than adjusting these one at a time.
Oh man, right? Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And now I'm looking at this one and I'm like, wait a second. I think I want, this is my cover shot. I want this one to be in color. And that red is really saturated. Let's bring the red down just a little bit. Let's bump up the saturation on the greens a little bit. Okay. So now I can take one photo and undo everything and adjust it uniquely for a different situation.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to leave this one selected and I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to choose another image. It's just going to be random here for what I'm doing. And I'm going to command click on it. So I have both of those selected now, right? And if I hit Option S, I can synchronize those settings, including the crop if I had cropped it. I'm going to hit OK, and you'll notice that this one now has the same adjustments as, that's my son there, afraid of the ball.
You can tell it's a Viers, man. Straight.
There's a certain style. There's a certain style in there. Yeah. And so the chronology is you click the one that you like, that you want to model the others after, and you command click, or shift click, whatever, select them, Option S, synchronize what you want to synchronize, and boom, you've just made these global adjustments. It's powerful stuff.
Oh yeah.
So imagine you're at an event with your camera and you shoot some things in the sun, some things in the shade, some things indoors. You downloaded them and they're all in these, blocks. They're in these blocks of information. You're scrolling down and you're going, oh, wait a second. No, let me fix that one. And I'm just going my shift key down. I'm going to get that. And now I'm going to make all of those color, and now I'm working on those blocks. Or like I said, maybe I like these last two and I want them in color. I can come up here, select that, scroll all the way to the end, command click, Option S, and now I've synchronized those bottom two to match the colors on the other. You can't do that in Lightroom.
No.
You can't. And when I go out with my digital camera, I'm pretty liberal with the shutter button. I take a lot of photographs. And so it takes a lot of time to go through and adjust all of these, sort them first, then adjust them. And I find that this is dramatically faster than Lightroom for me. And again, there's the collaborative aspect. Whereas let's say that I hit done right now, Tony. Okay, I'm going to hit done. Yeah. And you can see the changes took place in Bridge. Now, if you and I were sharing this Dropbox right now, there would be that lag time in it syncing those XMP files that we talked about. But before too long, your Bridge is going to look exactly like my Bridge. Okay. And maybe you're laying out this magazine. You're like, no, I think that one needs to be in color. You can quickly go to open it back up in Camera Raw, make your changes, hit done, because nothing's done until we save them out. So you're going to see exactly what I'm going to see. And we have a true collaborative workflow here. Yeah. Okay. When we're done, I'm going to select them all. We have a lot of choices here. Okay. They're all selected here in Bridge. I can't do this with the free version. I can't do that Camera Raw stuff with the free version, but I can't do this. I can't go to Tools, Photoshop, Image Processor. Have you ever used this one, Tony?
On the odd occasion, I have.
Yeah,
it's as useful.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. We've been doing this for a long time, fella. We play with all these toys.
I've been using. I tell you what, I have to brag. I've been using the Creative Cloud now for 3 weeks, solid, 3 weeks. So I'm going to click on Image Processor, and what's nice about the Image Processor versus the other environments is I can tell it to save as a JPEG and resize for, say, my online gallery, but I can save it as, say, a TIFF and don't resize for my print product. And when I'm done running this, I'm going to have 2 versions of all of those photos. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Another option, Tony, is this new export. Round of applause for export. Do you remember, Tony? Do you remember? And I can't tell you what version it is, but do you remember they used to have the export panel in Bridge?
Yeah, a few things changed and went away for a little while, didn't they? They had the whole the output thing.
It was output. And do you remember that? No, it wasn't output. It was an export panel. And you could actually set it up to work with your Facebook and even creating an album right here in Bridge. You could create an album for your Facebook, drag the photos in there and upload it, and it would populate your Facebook for you right here from Bridge. So you could go from...
Do you know what? That must be quite a while ago because I cannot remember that at all. It does sound vaguely. I can't remember using it.
Oh man, I used it like crazy. Think about this. You shoot Camera Raw, you make your adjustments in Camera Raw. You don't have to make JPEGs and then upload to Facebook. You simply drag the Camera Raw over that export and boom, now they're up on Facebook for you. Yeah, it was here for maybe one version and then they killed it. But we have the export back. It's not quite the same. I'm going to create one. I'm going to click on the little plus at the bottom there, and let's look at what our choices are here. So I can export to the original file location, or I can save it elsewhere, okay, or to a subfolder. I can, that's typical stuff, right? I can give it, unique file names there, but here I can choose the format, JPEG, PNG, TIFF. So I want to do JPEGs because I'm going to use these for social media, quality, and whatever. So you can see the choices are a little limited. Right? But it does the job. It at least takes them from, say, Camera Raw to JPEGs by simply dragging them over that export button, and then you walk away and get a cup of tea, and let it do its thing. When you come back, you'll have a folder with the JPEGs, and up you go. I'm going to do one last way of saving these. I'm going to go back into the Camera Raw filter. I'm going to select all. And if you're using an older version of this, you're going to have a little Save Images button down here at the bottom left corner. And if you don't know what that Save Images button does, if you push it, it'll actually let you save your images.
Yeah. The clue's in the name though, really, right?
It seems to me to be clear, but
Yeah.
You know, Tony, you and I have been training a long time, and some of the questions we get,
have.
sometimes we just feel the need to clarify. But now we've got this little button that we see in everything now. And if I click on that, this is that save window. So I can, new location. Do I want to rename it here? Giving it a serial number? Do I want to include the metadata? What's the quality if it's a JPEG or PSD image? I can even resize at this point. Tony, I want to give a warning.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a really personal question, Tony? Really personal?
No, I guess so, yeah.
Do you do dopey things? Because I do dopey things. I just do stuff that later I look back and go, that was dopey. Why did you do that? You ever done dopey things?
Mate, more times than I can remember, of course.
So here's my warning to anyone watching. If you do dopey things like Tony and I do, if you turn that on, get in the habit to always check in case you ever want to turn it off again. You can just imagine what's happened, Tony.
Yeah.
I resized a whole folder and then I go up and I resize it again. Luckily, I had backups that I could go find. But, sometimes we don't. Sometimes, especially if this is saved in the same location. Guys, this is dangerous stuff. You're quite at risk of overwriting those photos and they're the size of a thumbnail because of the last project you did. So please either really examine this stuff or get in the habit of using presets that you create, and really don't take this window lightly. That's the lesson here, Tony, because you can really damage some photos right here.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay. How are we doing on time, Tony?
We're good. I think we've got about half hour left, so we're all good.
Any questions? Is anyone awake?
No, people are enjoying what you're doing so far. Reverb Mike is saying he only does dopey things.
Who's that? I didn't get the name.
Reverb Mike.
We should have a club.
Yeah? Or Dopey Club. Dopey Things Club.
I do dopeythings.com, and we could talk about the dopey things.
Should make a t-shirt. Oliver is also admitting to dopey things. He's saying he periodically crops an image in Lightroom Classic, forgetting he has others selected and settings sync is turned on.
Yeah.
It's easily done.
Yeah. But it's worth noting, Tony, I think, that for the new younger audience, the new younger users, the risks have gotten dramatically lower than they used to be.
Oh yeah, they have. And Yulia, by the way,
in Photoshop, dopey dudes. Remember putting type in Photoshop and this is Photoshop 3 and 4, and you click with the type button and the window comes up and you have to choose font and size and color, all that, because it's raster, it's not vector like in Photoshop 5. And once you hit OK, you had this type sitting there with a running light around it. You remember that?
Yeah.
You were nervous about deselecting, because how many times did you accidentally deselect something and it wasn't on a layer, and now you ruined your photo and you only had the one undo at that time. You only had one Command Z. And so you literally had to revert and start again. Remember those days?
Yeah, I do, yeah. That's why I still have Command S as a reflex on every time I do something that I know is good to commit. But even though I don't need to do that anymore largely, but I still do it.
It's one of the reasons I work in Dropbox, even if I'm not working collaboratively. That version history has saved me so many times, being able to go back to a previous version. I
like PSDCs for that. So PSDCs are good for that, and AICs are good for that. So Illustrator Cloud.
That was a lot of initials. So
it was.
Tell me, hold on. So TH. Expand upon
THTDN.
Initialization of. Yeah.
Okay, so a PSDC is a Photoshop document in the cloud, and an AIC is an Adobe Illustrator document in the cloud. And so they have active live versioning on them. So you can save specific ones to keep them as a bookmark. But otherwise they have that like a snapshot, so you can go back and roll back. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. but you actually can force the file to roll back. So very good.
So
and they're kept for like 30 days after you, I think it's 30 days after you last used the file, and then Creative Cloud just thinks, no, you obviously don't need that anymore, so it just flushes that information.
And that's the
not
day
the file,
you need it.
But
and that's the day you need it.
Yeah. Well, if you think you do, just open it at day 29.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to Bridge, and I want to talk about what you brought up earlier, and that's the super resolution.
Super res.
Super resolution.
Very useful. I like it. I think it's very useful. I've been taking all my old punk photos and running them through it. So
yeah. So I'm going to demonstrate it, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. So actually, let's hit done here. Let's hit done here. Let's go to a different folder here. You know what I want to show you here is, earlier we talked about Camera Raw and why I like Camera Raw versus JPEG because of some of the decisions that are made. This photo, for example, let me throw away that XMP file. And this one as well. Let me throw that XMP file away by clearing the settings. And now you can see how red these photos are.
Yeah.
So have you ever been to a Funkenfest, Tim?
I have not. Tell me what it is. No, I want to know.
So
a Funkenfest.
A Funkenfest in Austria. In Austria, all the way on the west side is the state of Vorarlberg. And it's kind of unique to there. There's a little bit of slop over into Bavaria and Switzerland, but it's kind of like unique to that part of the world. And the week after Fasching, they take the like a light pole, the size of a light pole, and they stack wood pallets or firewood up against it. And on top, they have a stuffed doll of a witch filled with fireworks. And they light the fire, and it grows and it grows. And it's just a massive fire. You can imagine how hot this is. It's massive. And if the witch explodes, winter's over. If she doesn't, there will be snow in April. So it's like a really cool Groundhog Day.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to go to a Funkenfest, because they have Funkenkukle, which is like this baked dough and lard with cinnamon sugar and jelly, Funkenkukle. And beer and wurst, and it's just a lot of fun. So here,
that just sounds like most of the words I say in the morning when I get up, and invariably kick the side of the bedroom cabinet.
So here's a guy looking, watching the fire at a Funkenfest, and you can see it, right? You can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to open it in Camera Raw, and if I had shot this as a JPEG and tried to adjust this in Photoshop using the color balance tool, just imagine how absolutely miserable that would be. It'd just be a terrible experience. But because it's shot Camera Raw, we have a lot more data in this file to play with. And because I'm using the Camera Raw filter, I'm simply going to take the temp and the tint sliders, and let's just see if I can pull something out of this photo. Right there. Let's lighten the exposure a little bit. Maybe I want it to be warm enough that it looks like he's at a fire, just not that warm. I'm gobsmacked. Tell me what that is.
Okay, go back into Camera Raw. Go back into where you were just now. Okay, so you actually target the triangle thing, the little widget thing. However, if you hover over the word temperature,
Yeah.
Now just click and drag left and right. That's stapler accident finger.
I like that.
It's cool.
It's really cool. You know what I like to do, because I get paid by the hour, is I like to enter a number here. So 2029, and then look, and you go, nope. So then I highlight it again, 2028.
I see. I like people that
you highlight
the
again,
number and then delete it and then type new stuff. That's when you're really paid by the hour.
That makes my head explode. Yeah. Okay, let's go to, let's just take this picture right here. Okay.
Julia's got a question for you, sir.
Hit me.
She says, Why does Camera Raw files have no pixels?
They do have pixels. Who asked that question? Was that Yulia?
Yulia. Yeah, I think she's talking about mosaicing.
No, she's not. She's being funny, and it's very funny. Have you ever heard of YouTube, Tony?
Isn't that some sort of video thing on the internet?
It's a video thing, and there's no quality control. Let's just say that there's no quality control. Okay, and so there are training videos on YouTube that I just can't make this any other way. They're wrong. They're wrong. Yeah. And I watched a video.
I have seen this kind of content. Yes.
Yeah, and I watched a video. Though. No, okay. Well, I watched a video where the guy blatantly and repeatedly explained that Camera Raw files don't have any pixels. And I'm watching this and I go, huh? What?
Can you send me a link later on to who that individual was? I wish to taunt them somewhat.
And that was only the beginning of all the wrong things that were said in the video. And so when you asked that question, I knew it had to have been Yulia because I told her about it. Okay.
It's just brilliant. Yes. No, I've come across things like this. We could talk about this long into the evening.
So if anybody watching this only heard part of that and wrote down Camera Raw files have no pixels, please scratch that out. That's not the message you're supposed to hear here. The message is...
then sit and think about what you just wrote down and how much sense that makes.
Okay. So let me just open a couple files here in Camera Raw. Okay. And yeah, so let's say that I want to use this picture here. These cute little doggies. Hello. Okay. I can right click on the thumbnail here and I can go down to enhance. They've taken super resolution and they've hidden it from us. Okay. In this
secret, know it only club.
So you guys watching, both of you who are watching, are about to join the super resolution club because we're going to let you open that. You know what it is? Have you ever been to you know what a speakeasy is, Tony?
Yeah, I do. Yes. From the Prohibition days.
Yeah, this is like a speakeasy. So if you guys don't know what a speakeasy is, during the Prohibition days, it was a bar that had no signs and secret doors. And, I'm from Kansas City and we still have them there. There are places you can go and there's just a door there and there's somebody standing outside and you have to use the secret phrase and they will push a button and the door will open and then you go down inside. So this is like the speakeasy of Adobe tools. We go to enhance, pops this open, gives us this preview. It's thinking about it.
It takes about 5 minutes or so, doesn't it, to run?
Yeah. So here's the super resolution button there. Okay, super. Now, Tony, one of the things I haven't had a chance to do yet, I'm going to go ahead and hit enhance, and I want you to see what the behavior is here. So while it's thinking, I want to just tell you this, Tony, that I've actually in Photoshop been playing with just the image size, and I've been equally amazed at what I'm getting. And so what I don't know, and maybe you do, because you're closer to the Adobe gods than I am, is it the same mechanism? Like if I am in Photoshop and I go to image size and I'm playing with resampling up an image. So on my list of things to do is to take the same image, enlarge it using the same specs as super resolution with image size and using super resolution and comparing those. So for those of you who don't know, super resolution doubles the width in pixels and doubles the height. So only 25% of this image is the original image. 75% of this is made up. And when I go back to Bridge, you'll actually see that, let me zoom in. You'll actually see that it's created a second file called enhance. So there's the original one and there's the enhance. Let me zoom back out.
So my
let's look at the file size.
As an answer to your question is that this is a completely new algorithm. But the upscaling in Photoshop started a journey with the automatic algorithm. So the automatic option in the drop down there in 2015, and that's been revised, I think, 3 times since. So it gets better and better because it's using machine learning.
It's just really good. I have to tell you that I've been amazed. Now, before I lose track of what we're doing here, if I zoom in, you'll see that this image is 16 megabytes. Okay. I think that's what MB stands for, right? Megabytes? I think so.
I reckon something like that. Or
and the new one is 206 megabytes. Okay. Now, let me go to full screen view of the original and zoom in. Okay. This is the original. And this is the enhanced.
It's pretty
original,
good, mate.
Original. Let's get back closer. Okay, there's the original. Pretty amazing, isn't it?
I think it's brilliant. Really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got scans of pictures that I scanned years ago, and now I started restoring them using that, or using that as a base.
For those of you who, before you get all excited about this, keep in mind that noise also gets bigger. Okay. Artifacts from JPEGing gets bigger. So this doesn't fix all that stuff. It's pretty good, but it could actually make a bad photo worse.
Yeah. Garbage in, garbage out. That's the thing, right?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I've fallen in love with, these full frame cameras, Tony. I just, I've tried them all. I've tried cutting corners. I've tried getting the other stuff. I've tried various mirrorless cameras. I love what they do, but for me personally, it's all about image quality. I don't care about all this. I mean, the other stuff matters, but I have to get a good picture. The camera's not doing its job. I find that on a lot of these cameras, because that sensor is smaller, in the process of writing that, even if your ISO is set at 100, it's as low as possible and the lighting's perfect, you zoom in and you still see artifacts in there, and there's just noise there. And so if you take that and blow it up to go on the side of a truck for the Liechtenstein bobsled team, you're going to have a different product. So my digital camera that I'm looking at right now, the one I'm actually using for the show here, is an EOS 1DC. Okay.
Yep.
EOS 1DC. And it only shoots 20 megapixels or whatever, which by today's standards doesn't sound very big. Hey, Yulia. It doesn't sound very big. It almost sounds like, well, do I want that? If you take that camera and you go to super resolution versus other cameras and go to super resolution, you start realizing that because it's full frame, because the quality is so great, the fact that it's 20 megapixels, I could go massive with that and not see. And I've taken photographs where I can count the hairs on someone's head and blown it up dramatically and still count the hairs on someone's head. I've taken other cameras that don't do that. And my point is, before you buy your next camera, I'm not saying go buy a full frame, but at least just remember that the reviews that you read in the magazine on those cameras, they've got different things that are important to them than what may be important to you. Yeah. I've read reviews of cameras where they were like, this is the greatest camera ever made. And I've gone out and shot it, and I was greatly disappointed because the one thing I care about, the photo, it's just not as good as what I can get with.
And given that is its primary function, disappointment in that area.
Yeah, it's kind of like a phone. I can't hear you. Yeah. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. But it takes great pictures. I can't hear you. Yeah. What's the purpose of this camera?
And the other thing that people don't, I think, often don't understand is that when a camera captures an image, the way that information is brought onto the sensor is different to the way you see it before the pixels are actually manufactured. So light isn't captured directly onto each pixel in that way, that it's captured onto a grid.
Right. But keep in mind that camera raw files have no pixels.
Well, apparently so.
No, you're right. So. If you're shooting camera raw, if you're shooting JPEG though, if you're shooting JPEG on that camera, okay, even though I have that, if I have that on the highest quality, if I go super resolution on a JPEG shot with that camera, it's going to be a different product than if I go super resolution shot with my old Gh5. What was that, a Lumix or Panasonic, whichever one it was?
I don't know.
Gh5.
I do not know.
Very disappointed in it, and sold it. But I'm just saying. So you're right. We have to think about that. But that's for image adjustment controls. But in terms of being able to blow it up, or what did we talk about earlier? I've got this with my short lens, and I shoot something way off in the distance, and I crop out 80% of that photograph, and that's all that's left. And then I want to blow that up. We want as much quality in there as we can.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, absolutely, we do. It was a Panasonic, apparently.
Oh, so you're okay. Gh5. So you're like Googling while you're not listening. You're Googling.
No, I was listening. It's shopping? Just that Kirsty in the chat. I am actually. I'm just buying myself some new trainers.
Yeah.
Kirsty in the chat said Panasonic Gh5. There you go. Yeah. So Kirsty helped us out. Thanks, Kirsty.
Okay wearing slippers for the show? Can I wear slippers for the show?
Oh yeah, man. Of course, totally. Whatever you're comfy with.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very comfy with these. Yeah.
So
thanks, Kirsty. I don't care. Panasonic Gh5. Yeah, I had one. Loved what it did. But I zoom in on the pictures and there's just this noise there, which was sufficient for a lot of what I did. But again, you start super resolution, you start blowing those. And I actually did it after the super resolution was introduced. I went back to some of my old digital photos from various cameras and started playing with them. And it's amazing the difference you get. It's definitely worth trying though. You have to try it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, it's a good thing to do. It might be a good idea, actually, for me to just remind people that don't forget we have our own Discord channel here as well. So if you want to carry on the chat once we're finished, which is in about sort of 10 minutes, then
I'm done now.
Join us on Discord.
I'm done.
You're done. You're finished. Yeah. Show us your mug, Russell. What's on your mug? Explain. Enjoy life.
So
in full trains.
I love this. So somebody at one of the local stores thought it would be a good idea to take typical German sayings, like cliches, and translate them to English so nobody knows what they are. So this is my mug today is enjoy life in full trains. And I've been on a lot of full trains, and this is a terrible thing to say to somebody. It's if you think of it that way, in the summer especially. So yeah, so I don't think this is supposed to be a literal trend. Oh, and it says down here, it says, Genieße das Leben in vollen Siegen. So that's what it's supposed to say right there. Can you see that? Yeah. But
just
enjoy life in full trains. Yeah. I have another one too, and I just don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. I like it when people use cliches and phrases you don't understand. One time I apologized to a man. I was in a park. I was kind of blocking his parking spot. And I said, oh, yeah, let me move my car. I'm sorry. And the guy said to me, and I quote, Tony, I'm sorry doesn't feed the bulldog now, does it? He just looked at me in the face and he said, I'm sorry doesn't feed the bulldog now, does it?
Wow.
I don't know what that means. I can't process that.
No, can't get it. Oliver Andrews, by the way, in the chat is just saying, enjoy life. This you can see, even if I was in any country in the world, I guess apart from Japan, enjoy life in full trains, sitting on the floor by the toilet, because that's how it is over here, Russell, quite often for commuters. Oh, it's not good.
I one time got on a train in Vienna. I bought a first class ticket and hopped on the train and all the seats were taken. So I did the same thing. I sat on those stairs by the toilet for an hour and a half until enough people got off that I could finally get a chair. Yeah. Enjoy life in full trains, Tony.
Exactly. God, I'm so glad I don't.
So what did I miss? What did I miss? To recap, in case anything dropped through the floor here, we've got our devices. If we capture on a device and we bring it into Lightroom, that will sync across everything that has Lightroom on it. The computer, the iPad, your other phone, whatever, it's all there. We can do the adjustment on the phone. We can do it on the iPad, or we can wait till we get back to the computer. We do our adjustments. export the final file, the JPEG, the whatever, or I can take everything that I want to work on from Lightroom and export all of that with the original settings. Hey, let's see if I've got that yet. Let's see if that's synced yet. Let's go to my desktop.
Do you remember when we used to fly to places and go to places and take pictures, that sort of stuff? Do you remember that?
And you don't want to lose that film.
Well, what I used to do is what I would do is the minute I got into departures is I would when you said earlier on about plugging your card in, I would do that and let it sync, so I could then start working on the images on the flight on the way home, or at least until I fell asleep. Good way to work. And then of course everything syncs straight away when you get off.
Yeah. So. Okay, so it didn't save. There we go. Now it's caught up with me. So here's the ones I exported, Tony. I exported these from Bridge, including this. Do you remember when I worked on the window with my finger?
Yes.
You saw that, right? Let's open it in Camera Raw. Okay, we're in Camera Raw.
Yeah.
And let's go to this adjustment brush and look right there. There's the finger job I did right there, right there. I can even option delete it. It's gone. Or I can click on that and I can make other adjustments to just that selection. So it's worth noting that even that local adjustment comes through in the Bridge Camera Raw workflow. So again, what we're doing is kind of recapping. So we've exported now from Lightroom Mobile to a folder, Dropbox, desktop, server, wherever. If you want to move into a collaborative workflow, and you know what, this isn't a bad workflow. It's not a bad workflow for me to capture on my devices or my phone, bring it in, and I'm working in the field, look at them really quickly, export everything, and then that's available for my coworkers to then have in the Bridge Camera. I mean, that's not a bad way to work. No, I'm looking at the clock, Tony. Do we have any last questions?
I'm just having a quick scan for you, actually. People have... we've started another fire with the trains having stairs, because that's not something we have here in the UK.
Mind the gap.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially those ones. No, we're all good. I think collaboration in Creative Cloud is a hit.
Did I meet you at Adobe Max? Did I meet you at Adobe Max a few years ago in Los Angeles? Were you there? And we hung out. I was on crutches. Where's that?
Yeah, you were. I've got a photo of us where you had your leg in a cast. Yeah.
Well,
but we originally met in person in Washington in 20 something.
So I'll tell you a British train story. So I was after that Adobe Max, everybody was telling me I should get this different kind of crutch, and I was looking for it, and I found this peg leg thing. I could put it was my ankle, my toe that was. So I put my leg in this peg leg thing, and I strapped it up. So I'm literally walking around Europe, and it wasn't just England; it was like all over. And I'm and it looked like a rubber foot and this metal thing that a drywall user would put on stilts to install drywall on your ceiling. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So I had to visit a client in Newmarket, England, up by you. That's in your neighborhood.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
So she was going to meet me at the Newmarket train station, and I've known this woman for years. I've been a client for years, and I'm standing at the door. So you can picture the door of the train, right? Here's the door. It's got the windows, right? You can look out. I'm standing there with my peg leg and my bag over my shoulder, and she's standing there straight on looking at me, and the door's open, and you can imagine all she sees is one leg and a peg, and she knew nothing about it, and her jaw just about dropped because she thought I'd lost a leg somewhere along the
I remember that story. I do.
Yeah.
I do. Man, so good.
Full trains.
Oh yes. Anyway, I think we're about time, mate. It flies.
It looks like it.
It's great. I mean, thanks for sharing so much of that with everybody here. Hopefully, it will get you out using Lightroom on your mobile device. Great way to work, as Russell has successfully demonstrated, and really nice that it syncs with Lightroom wherever else you may be using it. Join us on the Discord channel if you want to carry on chatting there with the community. It's still a very active place. And hopefully, Russell, won't be too long before we see you again.
I'd love that. We can do maybe we teach Lightroom Mobile and Bridge and Camera Raw Filter on a future show.
We could do that, or we could cook up some cool publishing stuff we could do, I'm sure.
Let's do an in-copy show. In-copy.
Do you know what? I actually would, because I don't think enough people know about the benefits of in-copy.
Life-changing.
Is it still around?
Life-changing. Still around.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Tony. It's great to be here.
Thanks, man. Great to see you. Always. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Check out what we've got coming up on Friday and have a look at that. And I'll be back with you, I think, most of next week, if not all of it. There you go. See you later. Take care now. Bye.